Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. As always, you can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at Recliner Media on Twitter. That's Recliner Media on Twitter. And today on the Lock It Down Sports show, you have the college football playoffs and then Matty Ice we trust. And that is exactly where I want to start today's show. And Matt Ryan we trust. And this is really all on him, as the Falcons have hired Kevin Stefanski, of course, as the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And this is Matt's organization now. That right there really just showed you this is Ryan's. This is on him. And he's a good person to trust right now because he hasn't done anything wrong as far as football goes. You know, he hadn't screwed up that draft pick. He hadn't made that bad coaching hire. He hadn't made that bad GM hire. He's a borderline Hall of Famer, might be in as a Hall of Famer as a player. Played the most important position at quarterback. And was a really good quarterback in the league for a long time. So there's no denying the football acumen that Matt Ryan has from a playing standpoint. He brings leadership, he brings knowledge, of course, and he brings competence to the Falcons that they have not had in the front office in a long time. So why should we not trust him? That's what I meant. Why should we not trust him up to this point? Everything he's done has been successful. Some ups, some downs, of course, in his Falcons career. He should have won a Super Bowl. I don't want to talk about that. Should have won a Super Bowl. We know what happened. But all the makings are there for him to be team president. Although I did find this very interesting as they hire a head coach before GM. And, usually the GM hires the coach. Maybe, I don't know. This is me just kind of spitballing here. They were afraid they were going to lose Stefanski because one of the GMs they like are when the assistant GMs, player scouting, whoever their assistant GM is in the playoffs. One of their teams, their guys is in the playoffs. They were afraid they were going to lose Stefanski if they went with the GM first or had to wait it out to who knows how long. And then Stefanski's gone, and then it's, well, crap, he was our guy. Where are we going now? But I wonder the GMs or potential GMs that Matt Ryan has talked to. It was, hey, what do you think of Kevin Stefanski? Because he might be your guy, or thoughts, could you work with him, etc. But I do wonder if it does kind of odd. It gets kind of odd because yes, they would both be in the room to interview, to talk to the head coach, to make the decision, a head coach with the GM, with Matt Ryan. And the GM's going to have a different take, a different perspective, maybe see something different that Matt Ryan potentially missed, or just maybe it's just a different idea, different collaboration, which that could all be the case too. Because Matt Ryan, he said when he himself, Matt Ryan, got hired, he's there as I kind of look at it as almost like an advisory role, but also, hey, I'm here if and when you need help, because he goes, I'm not running the meetings. I'm not scouting that player from North Dakota State. I'm not scouting that receiver from BYU. I'm not digging deep into the film. It could be very, very well. Hey, Matt, what do you think of this ex player, potential draftee? Take a look. Let me know what you think. Is he a ball player or is he not? I could see something like that for Matt Ryan, but he's not leading the quarterback room. He's not leading the meeting room for the offensive coordinating position, the offensive coordinating the plan, the direction where they want to go. I don't, from based on what he said, I don't see that because he said the GM and the head coach will have the same power as they normally do, as they always have in the past. And your standard roles is what I take that. So it's that part's kind of interesting, but yet he goes and hires the head coach. Like I said, I feel like he's there as more of a resource and a tool, but he's going to let the head coach be the head coach, the GM be the GM, have the normal powers, and maybe they collaborate when it comes to the draft and the players are, hey, this is what I like. This is the direction I want to go. This is how I like to use my players in a XYZ sort of route. Maybe. That's kind of how I view it. But of course, it's going to be a wait and see this entire process and, what it truly is going to look like with this Falcons organization, because this is the first time I think I'm actually excited about the leadership of the Falcons, because Rich McKay is finally gone. I've never seen a guy fail upwards so many times. But he's no longer in charge or has any football making decisions. Thank goodness. So Matt Ryan's here, and it's Kevin Stefanski's staff. It's his staff. Him building his staff. I mean, the last 2 years in Cleveland were obviously really bad. You saw some things from Shedeur Sanders this year, development. 2-time coach of the year. Made the playoffs twice. One year made it 5 quarterbacks due to injuries and just playing the field, rotating through different guys. Yeah, you might have caught lightning in the bottle with Joe Flacco. Okay. So there's a lot. One thing I am kind of a bit concerned about is Tommy Rees is looking like he's going to be the offensive coordinator. He's been hired. It's been reported that he's going to be on staff and looking like the offensive coordinator. They weren't very good offensively the last 2 years for supposedly offensive guy in Kevin Stefanski. And what he's done offensively as offensive coordinator, that's why he got the job for the Browns. Now, is it the structure? Is it the personnel in Cleveland? I don't know. He hasn't, but Tommy Rees hasn't been great as the OC for 2 years, or for last year at least. And then at Alabama, he wasn't. When he was the OC at Alabama, he wasn't very good either. So this part is kind of concerning on that realm of, was it the personnel and the structure in Cleveland? But what makes you think Atlanta has such a better structure? Seriously. We don't have any receivers outside of Drake London. I mean, they've got they had Jared Jeudy here. So that's kind of you're back and forth. Yes, is Drake London way better than Jeudy for sure? Absolutely. But Jared Judy's solid. You've got a tight end, Drake London. Maybe. He's do they franchise tag him? Because he's a free agent and he hasn't done a whole lot in a Falcons uniform. Then Njoku, the last few years, he's produced well. And Finn this year, Harold Finn, who's produced really well as a 4th, 5th round draft pick for the Browns this year. So maybe I could see them tagging Kyle Pitts as this is your year. Either you get tagged and you ball out, or we're going to let you go and you go sign somewhere else. Because it's all the measurables are there, all the tools, the upside is right there, the explosiveness, the hard to cover, et cetera, is all there with Kyle Pitts. Dynamic, explosive. He's had that. A solid tight end in Njoku, and then, like I said, Finn this year. So maybe it's the personnel. You had a running back in Nick Chubb 2 years ago. Looked really good. Oh, yeah, we've got a pretty dynamic one that can do it all. Catch out of the backfield and Bijan Robinson. So, I mean, there's some things, there's some pieces. What's Michael Penix? I don't know. Is he a franchise quarterback? He hadn't shown it yet. And the offense is better under Kirk Cousins. We'll see. Pretty limited draft this year with what they've got to bring in. But, I've said this in the past. I mean, I love our 2026 first-round pick. He had 10.5 sacks as a rookie in the NFL. Our 2026 first-round pick. And James Pierce, who we traded up for. People want to make a big deal about that. But no, our 2026 first-round pick has already had 10.5 sacks as a rookie in the NFL. That's pretty doggone good if you ask me. But that's neither here nor there, right? Oh, yeah, and we got a quality safety in the deal as well. But, sometimes facts get in the way of a narrative to push that the Falcons are in a bad shape because they don't have a first-round pick. Well, no, we do. He just played this year. He got 10.5 sacks this year. So personnel maybe was an issue in Cleveland. Defense wasn't with Myles Garrett, obviously. But obviously, if we're talking about the offensive side of the ball, offensive guy, and Stefanski, and then Tommy Rees as the OC. So, is it a good hire? I don't know. That coaches. Oh yeah, outside of Jim Harbaugh or McDermott, 2 would have been home run hires. Heck yeah, give me Harbaugh, absolutely. Give me McDermott, yeah, absolutely. But we are hired Stefanski, and would McDermott even look at us? Who knows? I would imagine Baltimore would be his would have probably been his ideal. He would love to go to Baltimore. Would be probably his top choice, McDermott's. But I would love to have McDermott in Atlanta. But here we are, Kevin Stefanski. So I hope it's a good hire. I do. Is it? I don't know. We shall see what happens and where it goes. Now, the college football playoff. It's over. It's done. We're not going to get any more college football until August, which is sad. I know. One thing I did want to touch on, there's a lot to touch on. We might talk about this for a few weeks, kind of the aftermath and the shakeup, if there's shakeups or changes and tweaks and all that. Although I do want to say it's a big win that once again, the SEC and the Big Ten cannot come to an agreement on things. So we get to thankfully stay at 12 teams again next year. There was talk that the Big Ten wanted 24 teams, the SEC wanted 16. They couldn't come to agreement. So once again, we, the fans, win, and it stays at 12. We might get into that maybe next week on a show. But where I want to go right now with the playoffs, people want to make a big deal of it. And I just wanted to look at some things, and I was like, let's not try to make the biggest deal about it. And that's teams with buys. As all 4 teams that played a Power 4 team the last 2 years of the playoffs. So since the 12-team playoffs started last year and then this year, we're 3-0 in their next game. Boise got a bye last year. Guess what? They lost to Penn State. Should they get a bye? No, they shouldn't have, but that was the system in place in hand. So, Boise, bye, but they lost to Penn State. This year, the 2025-2026 season, both the teams, Oregon and Ole Miss, both won their second-round games after beating James Madison and Tulane. Once again, get back in the flow, getting a warm-up with things. So now it's Ole Miss, Georgia. Georgia coming off the bye. They lose a close one, back and forth one to Ole Miss. And you want to say the bye, so people want to use the excuse of the bye as, oh, they were flat or they were whatever. Look, it was a back and forth game during the regular season. Ole Miss could have won that game during the regular season. It wouldn't have been surprising if they did. But they end up losing. Yeah, did I think Georgia was going to win because there was no Lane Kiffin? And the back and forth between the Ole Miss staff back and forth of where they going, they got to recruit. Am I going to be at LSU? And be all that. Yeah, all that was swirling. That's going on for sure. That's a big distraction. That's really why I thought Georgia was going to win the game. But the bye doesn't really, to me, it's hard to apply. So teams with a bye in the 2024-2025 season, byes lost three out of 4 games, 3 of the 4 games. Georgia, Oregon, and Arizona State lost in the 2024-2025 season playoffs. In 2025-2026, teams with byes went 1-3. And I think the bye thing, like I said, is very overblown. Although big breaks are an issue for sure. The only winner of this bye was Indiana. And I thought this playoff was very open on a whole. I mean, I feel like if there's a bunch of teams that could have won it. Georgia, the way they were playing coming into the postseason, you're like, whoa, this Kentucky game, they flipped the switch and they're like, oh, this team's playing well, playing really good. Ohio State, we saw what they did their regular season. Maybe that was it. We saw what they did in the regular season. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of all they got. Ole Miss on fire offensively, maybe the best team in the SEC. Probably should have been in the SEC championship game, and then to kind of see what happened, how that would have shooken up seeding and that sort of thing. But, tiebreakers and how it all fell. Oregon, yeah, I know they lost to Indiana, but it was a close game, during the regular season. Hard to beat a good team twice, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, the number 1 overall seed, Indiana. So maybe 5 schools coming in But then you also look at like a team like Miami, obviously barely got in, but at times looked like one of the best schools in the country early on. Early on, you're like, oh, this Miami team's serious. They look good. Carson Beck has looked really well. And then, they have their 2 hiccups during the season. And it's like, oh, well, maybe not. A one-loss Texas team. And we saw that the one good game, one of the 2 good games in the first round, Texas A&M Miami, close, low-scoring game. Wouldn't surprise me when A&M made a run. Yeah, they didn't beat many good teams in the regular season. They didn't beat any ranked teams in the regular season outside of Notre Dame. But just how their schedule was. In that conference, they had played a worse slate SEC slate of games, but that's how the schedule was because it's too big. And then you got Alabama, Oklahoma, a rematch, which was good. It was a good game. It was sloppy though. Those are 2 sloppy games. So you got 2, I think, thankfully close good first round games. Quarterfinal games, once again, you had 2, Ole Miss and Georgia, and then Miami and Ohio State. To me, Ohio State being the real surprise, losing to Miami. And then we had one semifinal game in Miami and Ole Miss, a fun back and forth game. And you had a great title game too in Indiana and Miami. I think one thing it shows, if Indiana, you heard me, Indiana can win a national title, why can't your Power 4 team do it, huh? Yeah, there's a different way of winning. That a bunch of older players, that's part of it. Does it kind of suck? Yeah, a little bit. But they found a way. That's what you're supposed to do. Does NIL help? Yeah. Is it because they have one of the bigger alumni bases? Yeah, that helps too. To give them money, sure. But that's where we are. That's part of the game that's being played now. So if Indiana, one of the losingest, or maybe it is the losingest football program in the history, in 2 years, from like 2 years ago, didn't even know they had a football program, to winning a national title. Very impressive what Indiana did this year. And Signetti, you can coach. I think we're going to get into some more of this in some later shows of what Indiana's school is, like what their team is. A little bit later on in the show. A little bit later on down the line in future shows. So 6 total good games to me. Which once again, what does that tell me? Playoffs are too big. Playoffs are absolutely too big. 12 teams is way too many teams. But I've said this over and over again. And sadly, it's going to continue to expand to 16, sadly, maybe even 24, which is really, really unfortunate. And that's the way it's sadly going here in the future of college football. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at LockItUpMedia. That's LockItUpMedia on Twitter. I'm Locke Hoover. You've been listening to the Lock It Down Sports Podcast on the Recliner Media Network. I'll talk to you next week.